Behind the mask.
Welcome back to Radio Row, the Behind the Mask podcast. Spikes, we got some talent in the building, bro.
And you damn
Listen,
skipping,
man.
we got some talent.
And I tell you why I can appreciate these two gentlemen, because they kept the nation, they kept the community going during the pandemic, bro.
When everybody stopped
moving. They didn't know what was happening. People couldn't work. They didn't know what to do with their investments, their finances. But these two gentlemen kept us going. And I'm happy that they're here going behind the mask today. The homies Rashad Bilal Troy Billings from the successful podcasting show Earn Your Leisure.
Earn it.
Gentlemen, welcome to Behind the Mask, brother.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it, brother.
No doubt, man. We appreciate y'all coming. Obviously, like I said, did some tremendous things for the community. And I can remember when the pandemic was going on, we couldn't be face-to-face. There was nothing that you can do in person. But then your show popped up. And it was showing every week on how to strategize, how to invest, how to have some sort of sanity financially when cats couldn't even go to work, bro. So what made y'all come up with the concept and really helping the world out moving forward as they're doing today?
Yeah, you know what's so crazy? It's like we had the show for a while before the pandemic, but the pandemic accelerated it. And a lot of people saw the pandemic as like something that was going to be a tremendously challenging time, and it was. But we saw it as an opportunity, because we knew that people was going to be home. We knew that people needed education more than ever. Like, you couldn't even try to get a job. You couldn't get a job interview, right? So it's like, and then there was stimulus checks. So people actually had money, right? And some people got money other ways too. So we're going to talk about that. But
you know me.
So it was a unique time in history. So I'm like, yo, we got to double down on content. And that's what we did. We started another show called Market Mondays. That went crazy. Earn Your Leisure. We started putting more content on social media, and people were home. So, you know, they just started consuming our content at an all-time high. And then what happened is, you know, we had some luck, because then the stock market started to take off. So as we was giving information, then people was making money in real time, and it's like, oh shit, this really works.
That's the key. Like, once you give somebody information and they make money, now they forever indebted to you. Right. That's one of those things. Like, we always talk about, one income is too close to none. And so people start seeing investing as another way to make money. And so once they did that, it was like, all right, I'm locked in with these guys. But then they started making more, and it was like, all right, now let me tell a friend. And so once everybody told a friend to tell a friend, now it's like we have an audience. And we just kept giving out information, education. They kept applying it, kept making money. And it was like, oh, nah, these are my guys forever. Because once you give somebody information, they make money from it. They indebted, man. They feel like, I owe it to y'all to just support.
It's like the game, yo. You don't have to want it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So after all of the success that you guys had, even going back through the pandemic, you've been introduced to a lot of different people that do different things. I noticed the PA, you guys doing stuff with the Players Association, NFL,
NBA.
NBA. So bottom line, bro, like, you've come across so many people, but now what is the main lesson that you've learned just from dealing with, from the athlete's perspective? Like, the one main problem or the nugget that you can share with us that you see as a consistent problem what athletes go through that you probably can shed some light on.
I think, I used to be an athlete myself. So one of the
athletes always
language.
We don't drop you off at the waste management too. That's where all the trash go.
That's a fact. But when you're an athlete, most of the time you do the same thing every single day for your whole entire life, like from your 10 to 25 or 30 or whatever. So it's difficult to switch that off and figure something else out, right? So I encourage people, nowadays you can do things while you're playing. Like, you don't necessarily have to wait. So guys are starting podcasts while they're still playing. You see Draymond Green. Or guys are starting media companies while they're still playing. LeBron James. That's on the highest level, but you can do it on a lower level as well, right? So I think for all athletes, you have to start planning your second life while you're still in your first one. Because that's what a lot of people don't. They'll go overseas. And, and it's like a lot of times when they're done playing, financially, they're not making any money at all. So that's crazy because now you got to kind of figure that play out because you still got all the other expenses that's coming in, but you don't have any. But then from a psychological standpoint, it's tough too because it's like you've been used to doing the same thing every single day, and then it just stops.
Yeah.
So if you don't have anything else that you've already planted seeds in, you can kind of go through a rough period of trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, what your passion is, right? And now, if you're 30 years old, you got a wife, you got kids, it's a lot more harder to just try to figure that out. Like, you got to kind of know what you got going on. So that's a problem that we see with athletes. It is starting to change, but I definitely encourage all athletes to find a passion, find a skill set, learn about investing, learn about business while you're still at your prime. Don't wait till it's over to try to start at the beginning and try to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest thing, right? More athletes today are looking at themselves as a brand, whereas prior it was like, all right, we'll figure out the business deal. Somebody will do that for me. And people are really taking account for their career. So they're educating themselves, which only helps their career in a longevity standpoint, right? Because now you have things that are put in position that, a freak injury can happen. And now it's like, what do I do? You know what I mean? And so we've seen that a lot. Like you said, when we talk about the athlete overall, when you have to rely on somebody else for the long-term benefits of what you're trying to do, we've seen people being taken advantage of. So not only just getting the information, but actually sharing the information, because that's something that, in the locker rooms, what are we talking about really, right? And when we get into these boardrooms, what are we talking about? So it's like, all right, get the information, share it. Now let's see what we can do as a community, as a not only just a community, but inside the locker room and outside the locker room as well.
Yeah.
And you guys are tremendously successful. And I say that in the context that when this thing started for you, I know there had to be naysayers, people that met your mission with resistance, trying to hold you back. Oh, you can't do that. Like, even with us in the media game and coaching, they're like, nah, you don't want to do that. I'm like, why don't we want to do it when you're doing it? You eat and you making money, why we can't do it? So they try to put that cap, or their vision only goes so far as they can see, not as far as you can see. So what are some of the things that the goals or the obstacles, I should say, that you guys met, and talk about how you overcame them?
Yeah, I'll start really quickly, man. Like, I was a phys ed teacher, right? So most people think like, yo, you're the gym teacher, what do you know?
Right.
And so, like, even now when I go back to the school to give back, they're like, oh, are you coming back to work? And it tells me right away, like, yo, they have no idea what we're doing, right? But it's fine, you know what? Because it's like what you said, their vision for me was here. They could have never seen me excel to this point. And so I think it's dope when you start seeing it and you pull back the layers of the person, because outside of being an athlete, you're a person too. You're a man too. You're you're a father too. And so where do you go to share that? Right. And so the fact that you guys are doing that is great. But the fact that, when people look at it, it's like, all right, they're going to label you. They're going to put you in a box. So that's why you see us show up with the NFL. That's why you see us show up at the Grammys. That's why you see us show up at the All-Star game, because we want to show you that we're at all these things. You see us show up with it and anything in music, because that's part of who we are. That's part of our DNA. And so we want to make sure that we represent all of that, because all of it is us, right? There is no limitation. There is no boundary. And there is no fearlessness, right? We never came into the set like, yo, what if we fail? It was never an option, right? The only option was like, we're going to do this because we're going to add value, and we know we can do it because we have the information. Let's see how many people we can impact. Everything else has just become a byproduct. So just that level of fearlessness, man, was like, all right, I know I got his back, he got mine. Let's just go see what we can do.
Right.
I think for me, you're always going to have naysayers, but I think it was more so of people not fully sure if the way that we deliver the information would be respected on a higher level, right? So it's like, all right, that's cool for barbershop conversation, something like that. But then when they see us in Davos and different things of that nature, now it's like, oh, this is something that is respected across the board, right? Yeah. So, but my biggest thing is, like, Kanye West got a great line where he said, any pessimists, I ain't talk to them. Like, I never really entertain too much negative energy, because I feel like those people aren't for you anyway. Yeah. So just by entertaining that, it's only going to bring down your vibration. So anybody that has negative comments, or anybody that, ever thought that we weren't going to be able to make it, I never really paid too much attention to it, because we knew the vision. We were like tunnel. Yeah. We knew what we were capable of. And even now to this day, we know that we still have a lot more to accomplish. So for people that don't believe in what we have, that's for them. But we don't really try to pay that too much attention.
Yeah. Right. It's positivity or nothing. You know what I mean?
You say it all the time, too. You talk about the vision, pushing it forward. And for me, when I look at you guys in Tutan, first introduced me to you guys or you guys to me. And I was like, wow, dog, like this shit is really dope,
Yo,
bro.
this is major, bro.
But like the thing that I appreciate, I'm always careful when I go around kids or just anybody, how I conduct myself in public, just because I know I'm in the business of giving hope, and you can destroy people too as well. You guys are in the business of giving hope, pushing the culture forward. Tell them about that song you were singing when we were in business school down in Miami.
Is all right?
Nah, tell it. No
So
lies in the lounge.
we
And
got
it's mobile right now.
No lies in the lounge. We got our NBA down in Miami, and we were on the beach. They had some concert or something on the beach going on, right? So we had a day off where we was all kicking it on the beach, and speakers blasting. We happened to have these Jamaican and Caribbean models around us, right? And one actually had this flower hat on, you know, this big ass sun hat, like almost a church hat. So it was hot, you know what I mean? But then I had a few drinks. I'm like, yo, I said, yo, let me see the hat real quick.
You see the hat.
But then Rihanna came on, and I happened to be singing with the hat on. Like,
what song was you saying?
Bitch, better have my money. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's not the funny part. That's not even the funny part. The funny part is TMZ came by at the very time that I was doing it. Wow. They started taking pictures, and I stopped. Luckily, they didn't know who I was, so I wasn't the actual, you know, I wasn't on the front lines, you know what I'm saying? But
who has this footage?
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
We need to see
the first time I'm saying the publicity, you know what I'm saying?
Reach out to us.
I'm, you know what I'm saying? I respect the game. I respect greatness. That's what I say, and I think she's a great talent. But talking about greatness, bro, I had the privilege of meeting, I think, one billionaire in my life, Mark Cuban, and the thing that I did that was messed up is I took a picture, and I'm like, when I was done, I looked at the picture. I said, I took a picture as opposed to taking a phone number, as opposed to continuing a conversation in passing. But you guys, and I, in my opinion, were blessed to have Robert Smith on your show.
For sure.
What was that like? What tools did you gain? I know it's a tremendous amount that you got from Robert Smith. Man.
So the first thing is this. So usually, I mean, you guys record content. So most people, you record content middle of the day, afternoon, sometimes at night. He's the first person ever that we recorded at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Yep.
On Friday. He was there at 6:45 in a 3-piece suit.
Ready to go.
So that just lets you know the mindset right there, right? Like just completely different mindset of somebody that's worth $7 billion. You would think like you might be sleeping in. You know, it's Friday. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then we spoken to him. He was like, yo, I gotta go fly here today. I gotta do this. I gotta do this by 12 o'clock. Like he had his whole schedule laid out. So the attention to detail, extremely important. Being on time. My coach used to tell me this all the time. If you're on time, you late. That's what I learned from sports. And he personified that because it was at 7 a.m. He was there at 6:45. Like, you know what I mean? So little things like that, you start to realize, okay, this is why he's different. You know what I'm saying? He's different. But for him, it was being around him, the way that he's able to articulate things is crazy. Like he's like a real genius because he's actually an engineer. He's an engineer background before he got into finance. So he still looks at business from an engineering perspective. Like it's like he's putting pieces of puzzle together. So, you know, being around him, we learned a lot. And being around a lot of those guys, one thing that's extremely important is just adding value. Because once we was able to add value to him, now the conversation doesn't become like a charity case or like mentorship, because they get approached with that all the time, right? Like, can you help me out? Can you mentor me? And it's like, I really don't have time to do that. But now he sees that we have a platform and we can amplify his voice, right? So that's valuable to him. So now he's asking us, like, well, how can I help you? So that's why I always tell people, like, work as hard as you can to be in a position to add value. Because once you're in a position to add value, now the conversation is completely different. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not just a one-sided relationship. Now it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Once it's mutually beneficial, then everything changes.
I mean, what he said, it was like being part of that interview, and we've met him a few times after, it was like watching a computer, right? The way he's, like you said, is able to articulate, the way he's able to really explain things in detail. I mean, I had never seen anything like it. Even when we finished, I was just like, yo, what just happened? Like, we asked one question and he'd go on like a 15-minute answer, but it was like you can see how his brain was computing that and processing it. It was like, I guess it's like Chat GPT, like the human form of it. But it all makes sense. And what he's been able to do in business is incredible, but his philanthropic endeavors are incredible as well. Like we heard what he's done to HBCU students and the vision that he has looking forward to making sure that broadband, we have access to it, so we can have access to technology. So it's an incredible thing, man. And we've been very fortunate to not only meet him but a few other billionaires. And so it's the same. They all have similar characteristics, man. They have a level of dedication and sacrifice that nobody can really understand, but they can because they're at that level. But it takes a lot of work, man. He didn't get there overnight. Comes from humble beginnings, and so there's similar characteristics that we all have, right? We all come from humble beginnings. But what's going to separate us? And a lot of times it's that dedication and attention to detail and sacrifice.
The one thing that I've learned is from all successful people who I've spoken to, I talk about the end goal, or they preach the end goal in the beginning. And they always say, start with the end in mind and then work your way through it backwards. That way you'll cover every step, attention to detail. I'm not asking you guys how you see the process as far as working, but I am asking you, what's the end goal for Earn Your Leisure?
Well, we would love to take the company public. That's something that's on the vision board, right? I think that'd be a dope story for us. They saw us start, humble beginnings with iPhones at the dining room table and then ring the bell on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. Like, that would be something that's extremely important for the culture and just really big. But outside of that, a global vision of really becoming a real media empire, and where we're producing content. We already do that now, but we're producing content for other people, studios, affiliate satellites in the UK and in Nigeria and different parts of the world where it's like Earn Your Leisure and what we're talking about that's relevant here in America. They still have those same issues in different parts of the world. So it's like it gives us an opportunity to kind of curate that experience over there as well in a live event space as well. So, growing the brand to be a global media company and definitely looking to take the company public at some point.
I think that's it. And to use a sports analogy, when we talk about global expansion, it was kind of like we saw what Muhammad Ali did, right? When he fought in Manila. Yeah. It was bigger than just being the United States champion. It was about being the world champion. And so we kind of envision ourselves as that for financial education, right? Like, why can't we be the champions of that and go to places where they don't have the resources and the education is limited, right? And so that's why we're big on that. Like, it's the reason why you're going to see us in Africa, and you have seen us in Africa in the past. We're going to continue to do that. It's the reason why you're going to see us in Europe, right? Because there's people that look like us that no one's talking to. In the same way people gravitated toward it here, it's going to be the same type of reception, I'm sure, once they understand what's happening. That's going to be there. So it's a global play.
Right. Sure. You guys preach asset over liabilities, and we learned that in the MBA class. You know what I mean? And I learned more about it. But tell our audience, what does that mean, and why is that part of you guys' model?
So our culture for a long time, especially in the music, we've always glamorized liabilities, right? It's like the $200,000 car, chains, the
yeah, my bad.
All else fails, you can sell it.
I got this years ago.
The diamond necklace and diamond bracelet.
-2 degrees. But
my next is on froze.
So that's part of our culture, but not to say that you got to have fun, right? So our whole thing is like, we're not going to run away from who we are. We like nice things, right? But it has to be done intelligently. Right. So it's like, that's why it's like assets over liabilities. It's not completely crossing liabilities out, right? But it's like, okay, well, DJ Envy had said something to us before. He was like, I love cars. I got the Phantom, I got all that, but my real estate's paying for this. Like, I can't buy a home. I can't buy a car until I have a home that'll pay for it. Like, you know what I mean? If I want a car and it's going to be $3,000 a month, I got to have 2 properties where I'm generating that much cash flow that's going to pay for it. Like, so it's assets over liabilities. Before you buy a liability, have an asset that could pay for it, and make sure you have a lot more assets than you have liabilities. So that's something that really just try. And it's a more than just finance as well, right? When you look at in your life, right? People, a person is either an asset or a liability, right? Like, so it's like you got
Facts.
you got too many liabilities, and it's like you're gonna be in trouble, right? Relationship wise, with your family, with your crew, whatever. You can't be a liability. You gotta be an asset. You gotta bring something to the table. So, you know, when you think of assets over liabilities, it's a whole mindset that goes into play where the value has to be first. You got to lead with value in everything that you do.
Bro,
Preach.
I appreciate the gems y'all dropping, dog, because so many times we get with each other, and the reason why I think it's so important, you alluded to it earlier, like, depending on where your environment is at, you will get in that environment, maybe the locker room for a case example, and that's a prime opportunity to really share information that really can help you, propel you to the next step. And, you know, we choose to indulge in other things that only glorify you for the moment, depending on how long your stamina is.
And the talent level.
Yeah, and the talent level.
Yeah. What you working with?
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, hey, no lies in the lounge.
No lies in the lounge, man.
But nah, man, it's just, I appreciate what you guys bring to the table, man, the insight, the leadership. And I just want to continue to urge you guys to continue to do it, man. And if we ever can assist any type of way, man, let us know.
We appreciate it.
Thank
y'all for having us,
y'all
man.
guys, man. We gotta tap into. We in Atlanta all the time, so
we
gotta make sure we tap in
man.
next time for sure.
And also, I mean, for whoever has been under a rock the last couple of years and everything, man, where can our BTM audience, everybody out there, find Earn Your Leisure?
Earn Your Leisure across all social media platforms: YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and earnyourleisure.com. So once again, thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it for sure.
For sure.
Behind the mask.